How are you guys doing?
Doing great, thank you.
Hello, glad to be here.
How are you?
Good.
So, have a special guest today, Jason Wright. I know people are still trickling in, but uh, I don't see Hamad here. Oh, there he is. I'll let Hamad give an introduction of you then. Hey Hamad, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys. How are you?
Good, good. I was just gonna say if you want to do introduction for Jason, since yeah.
Hey, yeah, I don't know what else there is to say other than, Jason's the subject matter expert on active campaign automations and, integrations, funnels. So if you guys, looking forward to hearing Jason speak and, if you guys have any questions, make sure you have them ready. And Jason, let me know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
Sounds good. Well, I'm pretty laid back. Just curious, show of hands, who's a current active campaign user? Anybody? 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, at least 5. All right. Anybody who's not using active campaign or using something similar? Okay. And then some people using nothing at all. Okay. Just gives me an idea of who I'm speaking to. So is it okay if I share my screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what I'd love to do is I just have some like real high level things I'll talk about with active campaign and show you around a little bit. And then I'm going to open it up to Q&A just in these different sections, because that's where it's going to be valuable to each of you. So anything I can do to help you, let me know. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Yeah, and just to let you guys know a little bit about me, I guess I should tell you that. My company's called Intentionally Inspirational. I've been doing this about 6 years, been doing it full time, almost 4. I'm platform specific, right? So I don't just work with real estate investors, but they fit into my core avatar for sure. I work specifically with Active Campaign, ClickFunnels, Facebook ads, Zapier, Demio, programs like that. There's other ones out there you can use, but for me, it's been a great business model choice to just focus on a few and say, here's my stack. If you want to work together, this is what we're using, because this is where my team and I are experts. So, yeah, I mean, I love what I do. I think you'll find that I speak in a language you can understand, and I'm really excited to hear your guys' questions as well. So let me see if I can share this screen. Share screen.
Today you already work with Chris Torribo, right? Who are the other people you're already working with?
Okay, are you talking about out of the Raise Masters group?
Or just like who are just in general? I guess how many real estate syndicators are you working with today?
Ariel Diaz, Bethany Finch, Chris Freeman, Danny Lynn, Dave Schmidt, Jerome Aboud, Chris Torribo, Michael Pulio, Rob Overstreet, Steve Navity, Steve Spencer. Oh, Steve Spencer's not one. Hunter. There's more as well.
Okay, so that's awesome. So you're pretty familiar with the needs of a syndicator from a capital raising standpoint and the legalities of certain things, what we can and cannot do. So.
Yeah, and I think what I'm going to show you today, it's definitely applicable. And the beauty of active campaign and programs like it is this. What I'm going to just show you in my own account is just what works for my business, but it'll give you enough information to kind of help you start to imagine what's possible. So everything can be modified, everything can be tweaked. Every business, even though there may be competitors, a little bit different. So each owner wants to focus on things a little bit differently. So everything is customizable for sure. So I hope all that makes sense. All right, let me see if I can share this screen. All right, so here's Active Campaign. What is Active Campaign? Basically, it is the back end of your sales funnel, right? What does that mean? So essentially your foundation, right? If you go and spend money on ads and you have landing pages and you have all these things and you spend money and use your time to get people to join your list and then you have no plan, it's a big giant waste of time and money. Okay. I think that makes sense to everybody when I say it that way. If we're building a house, this is your foundation, right? The back end is what happens after you acquire an email list or an email, excuse me. So that's the simplest way to talk about it. Active Campaign can be used very simply for sending out emails every week with your campaign menu if you want. Most people take advantage of the great automation features, which is another nice step. And not as many people take advantage of the deals pipeline, but in my opinion, the deals pipeline, not only for new investors, but for current deals, coupled with automations, is where the real power comes into play. Okay. So Active Campaign is a great place to build a list, right? Engage the list and ultimately make more sales, or in your case, get more investors and make more money. Does all of that from a high level, does that make sense to everybody there? Okay. Different ways you can organize people in Active Campaign. Obviously, you've got lists. That's the most broad way to organize people. In your guys' language, it might be potential investors, current investors. You might even have deal specific lists as well. These are ways that I see other real estate investors commonly organize their list. There's nothing wrong with any of that. The next thing that people use is tags, right? Tags are kind of like a digital Post-it note, and every business owner is going to use those a bit differently based on how your mind works, right? Are these people, were they investors in a previous deal? Maybe you tag it deal ABC and you know they've invested in the past. There's a lot of different ways you can use tags. When people book a call with you through Calendly or Schedule Once, as an example, you can apply a tag so you know they've done that, okay? The final way to organize people in Active Campaign is called segments. Segments is a combination of lists and tags. It gets very, very granular, very specific. And for that reason, most people that I see don't use them. I've worked in 300-400 accounts at this point. I've worked in a lot. I'd say 98% of people don't ever use list segments, but it is an option. It does exist. Something to remember is, if you can articulate an idea to me, if you say, hey, I want to do this thing, here's how it would work. If you can tell me what it is, if you can explain to me, I can build it. Okay. Active Campaign is user friendly, but it's deceivingly overwhelming too. There's so many ways that you can do things. It can be very overwhelming. And some of you may feel that already, right? It can be very, very, very overwhelming. The automations are beautiful. This is what actually drew me to the platform. I'll show you an example of just one in my account. This automation comes after I have a conversation with a new prospect. In your world, this could be a new investor prospect. And the thing I like about it, it's so visual, right? Most people can grasp visual stuff that's narrated. So like what I'm doing now, as I talk along, it's easier to follow than if I try to email this to you. You know, with Active Campaign, top of the screen is where it begins and they flow downhill, okay? A good automation should have a goal. There should be a purpose to it. Okay, this is a nurture automation that I use in my business. It has two-way text messaging. It has AI-powered email. Has a variety of things to get in front of people that I've spoken to. And the goal of this is I want somebody to say, let's work together. I want that verbal commitment. In your world, it's, I want to give you money and I want to sign stuff so I can be in on your next deal, right? Same thing. Slightly different industry, same experience. And what this will do, this will nurture people over a couple of months in a very intelligent, personalized way, that as soon as I get that verbal commitment and I move them over in this deals pipeline, it shuts that down, right? I'm not going to, as soon as I move them over here, it shuts that down and it doesn't ask them to do business with me after they've already told me they're going to. So there's an intelligent nature to it. What's really neat about this, and I won't go too deep into this, but just in this screen, I'm using Active Campaign specific features, and I'm using another program called Sales Message, which is a two-way texting platform that I love. It integrates with Active Campaign beautifully, but Active Campaign is changing the game again. And over here under these CX apps, you'll start to notice as we move forward for the current users, you can put Slack in here, you can use Just Call, you can use a variety of other programs. And what you're going to see in the future is on one screen where you can set up all your automations across a variety of platforms from Active Campaign. You can already do this with Facebook custom audiences. It's very, very powerful. So again, don't get overwhelmed. Just know if you can conceive and articulate an idea, we can build it in Active Campaign. So it's pretty cool stuff. It's really nice to be able to automate things in your business that you don't want to forget about, right? You want every potential new investor to have the same experience to a point. You don't want to forget key follow-ups and things like that. And then, finally, Active Campaign as a CRM is a very powerful thing as well. You can look at a person and create as much information about them as you want, right? You've got a few default fields, and you can add as many custom fields as you want to that make sense for your business. So it becomes this central hub for all things contact related. You'll know how they came into your list. You'll know your history with them, communicating, even maybe their history with you as far as investing as well. So from a really high level, those are some of the things I wrote down I wanted to throw out there. I'd love to hear some questions. Have I overwhelmed anybody yet? If I have, it's normal. I have this conversation every week. It's absolutely normal.
I have a question.
Sure.
Thank you, Jason. That was a good overview. About for most of us as syndicators, and I know that you already work with quite a few syndicators. What are the what is based on acquire, nurture, convert, kind of the process? What is the typical framework that you have? Do you prefer lists versus tags, and what are the key automations people are using today? General things, without getting into too specifics if you don't want to, but the general things. I want to have an idea how much of a gap I'm missing, because I started using Active Campaign 2 weeks ago. I think there's just a lot of potentials I'm not exploring. I want to have an idea of the gap by leveraging an expert like you,
Yep, let me pull up. I think I've stopped sharing, pulling up a different screen in the background real quick. So you asked me about lists versus tags. I mean, lists, they're both important. You definitely want to have a couple lists that make sense to you, right? You're going to have active investors and then people that you're nurturing, call them prospects or whatever you want to. So that's kind of at a minimum that makes sense to me. As far as what gaps might you be missing, the biggest thing that I see, and specific with what you guys are doing, is just nurturing that potential new investor, right? There's some people might email once in a while or a call, but having a process where they can see kind of what that sales process or that customer journey looks like, that it just doesn't exist. So I'm going to try to show you an example here if I can pull one up real quick. I'm looking for one in particular. So that's a piece of it. The other big mistake that syndicators and everybody really makes, to be honest with you, it's the ongoing communication. So what do you talk about when you have no deals? What do you talk about when you're not, getting into that conversation of, maybe you should be an investor? What happens after all that's done? Then what? That's where most businesses in general, instead of doing something, they do nothing. I actually have an email in my inbox today, completely different industry, but what the person says is, we haven't sent an email in 6 months, and they give me their excuses as to why. Now we're having problems with spam. Well, it's because your list doesn't remember who you are. Think about this. When you guys are talking to investors, you're developing or trying to develop a relationship. So if you and I are next door neighbors and we introduce ourselves to each other one time, and then we don't talk for a year, and you're like, hey, you got 50 grand, I got a great deal, I want you in on it. I'd be like, wait, who are you? I'm not giving you any money. You got to build and maintain that relationship. So that's a big piece of what I talk to people about all the time. I'm going to share my screen again and then show you in an account. So again, with investor prospects, so here's just a pipeline example. Generally what people will have is some kind of a lead magnet on their website or their landing pages, right? Ebook, mini course, checklist, short video series, et cetera, maybe even booking a call with you, right? Not booking a call, bad example here, sorry. So what most people will do is say, hey, here's my ebook, right? Somebody will opt in, we'll give them an ebook, then what, right? Then what do we do? What I'm doing with these syndicators is I'm flowing them into this deal stage. And this first step is called interested in investing. So what happens here is an automation fires up and it's going to start sending emails. And we just start with like 4 and you can add to it. But the goal of this, it's going to try to give you conversation and topics and conversation around jumping on a call, right? They've obviously expressed some interest in investing. So they've got your resource. They probably have questions. They obviously have questions, but this works to get them on a call. So most people aren't doing this. They might make a call themselves once or twice, but automating this is really important, right? Once they have the call, you talk about what your options are, what's required, if you want to credit it or not, or whatever the case may be. The next thing you do is kind of present your options to them, right? What does it take for them to be an investor working with you? And then you move them over to another deal stage, right? That deal stage is going to trigger another automation that's seeking, again, that verbal commitment. Yes, I want to be an investor. Yes, I want to do it. All right. Once that happens, we move them over to the verbal commitment stage, which shuts off the last automation because we've accomplished that goal. And then we start saying, hey, you said you want to give me money and do the deal. Let's do it. Let's actually do it. What a wild idea. Let's take action and do it. And there's a third automation here that's going to nurture them to finish what they've started. Maybe they text you, maybe they call you, maybe they email you, but they actually complete what they started. So just from a new investor nurture that's intelligent and repeatable and automated, no one's doing this before they work with me. Nobody. When it comes to new deals, everybody's got a different ways they do new deals. Here's just an example of a pipeline that can all be modified, just different deal stages so that you can look at something visually and see where you're at with the new deal. Some of the better things I've seen is people put together an automation and maybe it's got 3 or 4 emails because they know they want to talk about the new deal, say 4 times in a week and a half or 2 weeks. We can start people there and automatically put everybody into this first column. And then as the business owner starts to work through this, they're going to start moving people to these different deal stages. The nice thing about this screen is at a glance, you know where your potential money's at right away. No more notepads, no more Post-it notes, no more doing 80% of it well and forgetting about the other 20%. It makes it really easy not to miss those opportunities. Does that help answer your question at all?
Yes. And actually, I use the within the automation, I have moving people to different stages a little bit, but you recommend using the, what is it called?
The deals pipeline?
Deals pipeline to segment people on different stages.
It just makes it easy because there's a bunch of different learning styles out there, which I won't get into, but I have yet to meet somebody who doesn't benefit greatly from the visual stuff. Active Campaign does have an app for your phone if you didn't know it. It is only like a partial app, but it focuses on the deals pipeline. So if I'm raising money for a deal and I'm out driving around and I just want to see quickly where are people at, like who's committed, who's verbally committed, you can pull up the app and actually see the different dollar amounts and stuff by deal stage from the app. And it's really focused on that. So it's just a nice visual way to do that. It's easy to stay organized that way.
Thank you.
So Jason, for some old school people that are using just Google Contacts and spreadsheets, and we keep a ton of notes about each call, where would you keep the notes about the phone calls that you've had and personal data and stuff like that?
Great question. So, hey, what do you know? Here's me in a client account. So here's my, we'll call it the contact record, right? If you're making notes about a call, you can come down here to notes and actually add a note right here. So you can manually do it here, and then it'll start to build. Here is a sample note. It'll start to build some history for you down here. It'll time and date stamp it for you. The nice thing is in regards to emails, whether it's people replying or that type of thing, it'll automatically log them for you. And then with some of the other technology out there, like the texting technology, it'll also automatically log your stuff there. But for calls, you can log them directly under the contact record. To make it more confusing, you can actually log them under the deal record as well. So there's some notes here that you could add also. I typically like working at the contact level, which is here, but some clients that work in deals a lot do use this screen, because if you click on it, it's just one screen away, whereas this is 2 screens away. So it's personal preference, but you have that option in either spot.
Just
So
one
those are
note,
two separate notes. They're not integrated together under contacts.
Correct. So I would say use one or use the other. My thought with it is this: I like the contact record because a good investor may be a prospect on more than one deal. So if you put all the notes under one deal, I don't feel like it's as applicable long term as it would be directly tied to that contact.
just one more thing, and Jason already touched on it, but I'd rather bring it up again. You see those general details there, Jim? You can, if there's a question you ask every time, so like for myself, is it a accredited investor, yes or no? You know, what do they do for their occupation? I have those as separate general detail values, because that's the same for every single person. And you can manually add that in there as well.
Yep, you can make an unlimited amount of custom fields here. Yep.
One thing on that, I've actually went a step further on that, Ahmed, where I have a questionnaire, a form that actually feeds into those fields. So I send out the investor questionnaire, and it does feed that, so I have access to that. I do have a question as far as determining between lists and tags. How do you make that determination if you're going to have, I mean, I've seen some people say just have a few lists and then lots of tags. And I saw that you had a lot of lists. How do you make that determination, whether it should be a tag or do it through lists?
Yeah, so if you want to think about lists are your broadest way to group people. So for example, 2 list examples could be Canada, the United States, right? Big, broad lists. States within the United States could be tagged. So it's a little bit more detailed within that list, right? So a mistake that you can make is having way too many of either. I've seen accounts with hundreds of tags or thousands of tags. And I say, hey, business owner, what do these mean? They're like, I don't remember. I have no idea. You don't want to end up in that scenario. So organize it enough so that you can make sense out of it, but I wouldn't go crazy with anything. A lot of my lists you saw on my account where I had them tied to specific lead magnets. So people would opt in to get the thing. I would subscribe to that list and use that as a trigger to deliver it through an automation. So that's what a lot. I only use about 2 or 3 lists on account, so I just need to clean that up.
So just the one thing I want to add, Jeff, you brought that up. It's very good. Is in my WordPress and everything, I have investor forms, and they automatically populate ActiveCampaign because it can integrate very well. So that leads me to my main question that I have, Jason. I hear Zapier a lot, but so far using ActiveCampaign, I haven't had the need, because I have my Calendly, I have my the scheduling through that, text messaging, pretty much everything's already within ActiveCampaign, where I just don't know if I have the need for Zapier. So I'd love to get more feedback on that. And then also, I know we talked about funnels and ClickFunnels specifically. Love for you to share that with everyone else as well.
So Zapier is, for anybody that doesn't know, it's a third party that can help integrate apps that don't have a direct API connection, right? The other advantage is, so don't use Zapier unless you need to, like anything else in life, right? But sometimes Zapier can give you an advantage over a direct integration. So like an example is ClickFunnels and ActiveCampaign. Those programs integrate together. From ClickFunnels, you can transfer first name, last name, email, phone number. But if you want to transfer custom fields over, it won't work. Now, if you use Zapier, you can build a more powerful connection from ClickFunnels to Zapier ActiveCampaign than you can directly from ClickFunnels to ActiveCampaign. So there's an example of why Zapier might be useful for somebody that needs custom field data transferred from one to the other. Other programs just flat out don't have native integrations, right? So Zapier hooks up to about 2,000 programs and apps, and it grows all the time. So sometimes it's the only choice, but so there's that. And then ClickFunnels is basically, you guys have probably heard of it. It's a program It's a competitor to WordPress, right? It's a drag and drop landing page builder. I work in it because it's familiar to me. It's easy. It's great with the shopping cart stuff, which is going to be in a different world than you guys are in probably. But, it's just a great software to use for the pages that people see, right? There could be a specific landing page for a deal with the video on that page. It explains the deal. There could be opt-ins for your different lead magnets, or you could build your whole site on it as well. Can you have success without it using other programs? Yeah, you can for sure. Will I help you build a site on WordPress? No, I don't want to use WordPress. There's too much going on with it. So WordPress is, there's a lot there. There's a lot you can do. And for that reason, there's a huge learning curve. So.
Hey, Jason, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So related to Zapier, not quite related to Zapier, I guess I wanted to describe where we are. We use HubSpot, been fairly happy with it until we got the sticker shock of, okay, if you want to do, drip marketing, the next step from $80 is $800, there is that's when we said, oh, okay, now what do we do here? So the short question, I guess, is we do want to do drip marketing and some of the automated features. Is the best choice a little reluctant to migrate all the data from HubSpot to ActiveCampaign? Is that the way to do it? Or what's your take on what you think we should do?
It's an option, right? It's an option to consider. For anybody on here, whether you're in ActiveCampaign or not, I believe you should be at the Plus plan or higher, right? The Plus plan is what I'm showing you today. It's got the deals pipeline, which I think is very advantageous. For the smallest plan, I think the list is $70 a month. I am a reseller, so if you're on ActiveCampaign or not, I can save anybody 10% off of any of their list plans, whether they're monthly or annual, doesn't matter. But with HubSpot, the $800, that's a lot a month, and that's why a lot of people migrate away from HubSpot, because it gets crazy expensive when you start getting everything on. It's very powerful, but some of their focus is big corporations as well. So looking at ActiveCampaign for even a piece of your marketing, is it worth looking at? Yeah. Do you need to migrate everything from HubSpot? Not right away. Sometimes people will use, Salesforce or HubSpot once people already become customers or investors, and maybe for the front end marketing, they might use ActiveCampaign and some of the automation stuff there. So I see people do it both ways, but I would certainly look at least adding as an option that's more affordable than HubSpot.
Does ActiveCampaign integrate with Outlook so that any emails you send is automatically logged into the contact like HubSpot does?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Let me show you this. All right, so there is a section in ActiveCampaign, and you can hook up your email account, whether it's through Outlook or G Suite, but it only feeds the activity if they're in one of your deal pipelines, which is strange. So, if I'm talking to somebody and they're in my list, but they're not in my deals pipeline, and they respond to one of my emails here, it's not going to update. So if it's in a deals pipeline, it will, but it'll automatically log all that conversation. So I guess the short answer is somewhat.
Okay. So I'll just, if I on that point, if I send an email out to anyone on an automation or a campaign and they reply back to it, it will come into my Gmail, which would be the case for your Hotmail as well.
Correct.
So is that just on a G Suite account or just a regular Gmail account?
So ActiveCampaign wants a custom domain, so they're not going to let you use Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo. So in that case, it'd be G Suite.
Okay.
I pay $5 a month for my G Suite per email. So I know they have other plans. They'll say this is our lowest. It's like $10, but they have a $5 a month plan. That's what I'd recommend to everybody. If you want a custom domain email, everybody can afford that.
So one quick question, if you want to do drip marketing and marketing automation, is Plus enough, or do you need to go to professional? I'm trying to figure, I'm reading the website. And
so just for automations, you can just use the light plan, but what you lose in the light plan is you use the deals pipeline. You lose the ability to score contacts, which you'll see some of this, which we haven't even talked about today. There's a couple of key features. Light's not bad. Professional, I use professional, but professional brings in a lot of artificial intelligence in the marketing. It's when you've already got your stuff down pretty good and you want to tweak for those extra open rates and those extra conversions, then you can look at pro. But for most businesses, plus is the most you'll ever need, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, a quick question. This might be a bit too granular, but does ActiveCampaign have an ability to give the recipients optionality on what email lists they are or are not on? Let's say you have 5 or 6 different campaigns and all of them are, the tick boxes are all checked. Unselect all of them except for deals. All I want to see are the deals. You can set that up in ActiveCampaign?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yep, no problem. You can also do, this will kind of blow your mind a little bit. You can also do conditional content. So think about this. You could send out an email to a group of people on a list, right? And you could say, hey, if these people have invested in the past and have this tag, show them this paragraph, right? If they don't have this tag, show them this paragraph. So you can set up emails, whether they're campaigns or automations, that show different content based on different factors that you set. And it can get very complicated because there's no limits to it. You could just use a simple tag, or you could use a combination of actions, activities, history, list tags, etc. So it looks very simple. It looks very clean, but it can get downright crazy if you wanted to. Again, if you can dream it up, we can build it.
I have a question of unsubscriptions.
Okay.
What percentage of unsubscriber is healthy, or is just right?
That's a good question. So a lot of times what I'll see in this industry specifically is everybody wants to get a list quickly and start marketing deals. Well, there's a right and a wrong way to do it. If you're scraping lists off of LinkedIn, business cards, and different things and not getting true opt-ins, you're always going to deal with higher unsubscribe. ActiveCampaign is going to notice, and it's going to get on. Look, subscribe to under 1%, best under 1%, and open rates 20% or more. That's always kind of the goal. Anytime you scrape a list or don't build it the right way, you're always going to struggle with bounce and unsubscribes. Okay. The other mistake you can make is do what my other client did and email people once every 6 months and see how that works. Just like going across the street to your neighbor you haven't talked to in a year and saying, hey, can I borrow your grill, or can I have 50 grand for this deal? It's not going to go well. They're going to say, I don't know who you are. So if you don't regularly contact, even a list you build the right way, those numbers we don't want to see go up are going to go up.
And can you talk about unsubscribe? Will people mark you as email abuse, or how would that affect your email deliveries and things like that?
Yeah, so there's different things that they have different options they can check. Off the top of my head, I want to say there's like maybe 5 or 6. The one that's going to be the most impactful in a bad way is them marking you as spam, right? So that's obviously everybody's going to have that from time to time, whether it's legit or not. I mean, you could opt into my list now and unsubscribe and mark me as spam, and I don't get to plead my case. So yeah, I mean, if you get a lot of spam complaints, they can affect deliverability as well. There are some things you can do in the DNS records and some just best practices that you can do to improve deliverability and all that stuff as well. That's kind of a dark art to deliverability, but it's definitely something that we should all be paying attention to. How is this so far, guys? Helpful? Yeah, the Q&A is always the fun stuff because that's where it becomes personal for everybody.
Yeah,
what other questions you guys have? Yeah.
I just got this last week, and what I'm noticing is when the contact is shows up in inactive, the name is not there. I get the email, but not the name. When I have Zoom, ActiveCampaign, and Calendly, talking to each other. So I'm using Automate IO in order to get this done. Am I going about this the right way? Because like I said, when the contact falls into ActiveCampaign, I don't get the person's name who are registered through Calendly.
Yeah, so automate.io is a competitor of Zapier. For what you're talking about, it's not necessary. So if you come down here in your apps and you open up your Calendly in another tab over here, so I'll just show you.
Sorry, Jason, we can't see your screen right now.
Oops, thanks.
No worries.
Let's see, where did you go? Well, you're up there. How do I get you back? Okay, share. Okay. All right, so if we pull up Calendly and log into my account. All right, so if I open up my Calendly in another tab like this, and I come in here to this apps section, and I go to all apps, actually, you'll just see that screen. You click on Calendly, just by having this open, they'll be able to connect to each other. So you would come up here and hit add an account. It'll ask you some questions. It'll see your current calendars. Like for example, in my Calendly, it will see all my available events. And then what you'll want to do is, basically what it'll see is it'll see all 8 of these events here. And then what you'll do is you'll pick the one that's applicable for your business. So my main call is right here. And ironically, I don't even have the correct calendar set up in my account, but I'm old school with it. And I have Zapier set up doing it anyway. But the way you can do it now is this is Calendly, this is active. So you have to do email. You would want to do first name to first name. There's the big 4, last name to last name. And then the last one you want to do is if you have the Pro plan, is it Pro? Pro plan on Calendly, it's $15 a month. They have an option to sign up for text reminders for your call. And if they do enter that, because it's optional, you can put it right into the phone number field of active campaign. So then all of that information will transfer over for you automatically. No need for automate.io for that.
Beautiful.
Just on that point, where you only get their phone number if they sign up for the text reminder. That's I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going into Zapier for no reason at all, because I set mine up through Zapier in order to require them to put in a phone number. And that way, if they don't want me to text them, I still get a phone number.
Yep.
But I just was wondering, it seemed crazy that wasn't standard. And I thought maybe I was missing something, but I guess not.
No, and like with my calendar, because in Calendly, you can, like with mine. So this right here, we can't force them to do it. I think it's got to be some kind of legality thing, right? But if they enter it, then I get them into, that's not good. I don't think that's me. Maybe it is, but that way, if they enter it, I can get it. And I don't call them on the phone anyway. I use it for the two-way texting software that I use, but you can't force them with the phone number. Let's see, a couple of messages in chat. Can I respond to these? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Let's see, I migrated in a Google Excel sheet to Active Campaign. It was messy. All right, so what I tell you about migrating stuff in, it's the old garbage in, garbage out. Definitely clean your data in Excel or Google Sheets before integrating it. And then to integrate it, you have to put it into CSV format, which you can do from any Google Sheet or anything. You just download it into that format. If you don't do that, it can be a nightmare once you get into Active Campaign. So you want to have that data clean and organized before you migrate it in. That'll help you. Unsubscribe. Yep. Okay.
I have a question about email bounces. So I got this bunch of business cards from a conference. I'm typing them in. I tapped it by accident, so I didn't type it right, and I have email bounces. I think I have 2, 3 of them I need to clean up if I can find the business card. So what would be the consequence of that? I guess with email marketing, my big concern in general is like if I'm not doing it right, like causing like I'm being blacklisted of some sort.
Yep. So what I would, if I were a real estate investor, and who knows, maybe someday I will be, but what I would do is if I was getting business cards and building a list, before I emailed anybody, I would use a program called neverbounce.com. And you can upload your list for free. And what this is going to do, it's going to read your emails and say, hey, this thing's dirty. You need to clean this. And they'll pull out the bad emails for you. I don't know how they do it, but it works really well. And it may tell you, yeah, your list is pretty clean, roll with it, or it may say you need to clean it. And it's like fractions of a cent per email address. So unless you have a massive list, it's not very expensive, but this way you're being proactive in getting the bad email addresses out before you even email them. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Nope, no problem.
Jason, I have a question about best practices in getting people to subscribe versus some of my friends only, they don't really do a drip campaign, and they'll just pay for active campaign by the month whenever they've got a deal. And they get a lot of them have been locked out because they're getting too many unsubscribes or bounces. So if you're trying to set this up the first time and you're trying to get a high rate of subscribers, do you have any best practices, or is there an easy message that you can send to try to get that subscription? And then is there any tricks about if you're constantly in contact with them, you know, you're emailing something every 2 days or every 7 days, or is there certain things that you can do that will get them to? I have so many in my e-box that I don't even open them anymore, you know, and so I'm missing some really great content sometimes, but I just can't read all of it. And so any best practices around those two things would be appreciated.
So the first part of what you're asking is really about list building. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Some of my favorite ways to build a list, webinars are phenomenal for list building. Anything this is what you got to think about. To get an email address from a stranger is like walking up to somebody and saying, hey, can I have $25? Think about that. Would you give a stranger $25 just because? Probably not. But if they said, hey, here's 3 videos, they're going to tell you exactly what you need to be looking at before you consider investing in a deal. I'll send you a 2-minute video a day for 3 days. Well, that lead magnet might have that much perceived value to me. So you got to make sure you're giving them something of actual value. I would say $25 or more in perceived value just to get an email address. Okay. So if you know enough about the person you're targeting as an investor, say, what are they going to need? How do I save them time? Whether it's picking the right deal or the right company to work with, that's what you need to think about. What some people in your space are using is they're using a tool called Eventbrite. Have you guys heard about this?
Yes.
And they're setting up a free account and they're uploading a list that they do scrape, and they're creating a webinar type event or some kind of information event where there's no direct selling in it. And they're letting Eventbrite use their email servers to send out your email to the event. So if people, you know, opt into the event, then you can map them straight into active campaign, and it is a legit opt-in. So there's some creative ways to do it. You know, somebody booking a call with you on your calendar is a legit opt-in. They're giving you their information and email in exchange for some of your time. It's not a high volume opt-in, but it's a fantastic one. If somebody's booking a call with you, obviously that's a hot contact. You know, courses, some people still do the ebook thing. I like videos, right? I could sit here today. It's 2:46 here in Indiana. You know, by the time I eat dinner, I could bang out a course today in videos because I'm so comfortable with what I'm doing. And I know if I do screen share video, I can make a course between now and dinner. That's why I love video. It's powerful and it's not hard to do. So take that, guys. Screen share videos for your lead magnets, very powerful and not hard to set up at all. So those are some things to consider and think about. Did I answer both pieces of your question, or did I miss a second piece?
No, I think that was all great content. But I did, so if they're booking a call with you through Calendly, Active Campaign is going to recognize that, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's a legit opt-in all day. Yep. If people are giving you their email in exchange for anything, it's a legit opt-in. That's the best way to build a list.
Okay. And if you're starting from a list that you already have, but like I shared, I'm old school using Google Contacts.
Yep.
Is there, what's the most efficient way of migrating all of that into Active Campaign, especially the notes?
Yeah, the notes is going to be something for a VA. It's going to be a labor of love, and there's no super easy way to probably do that. As far as that list, if it were me, I'd be running it through an Eventbrite, let them send out an email, see if I can get people to opt in for an event, or worst case scenario, I'd be using that never bounce to try to clean that up, because the average person, I think, uses an email for 6 months and then they either close it, never use it again, it goes bad, or something happens. So email addresses do not remain legit for a lot of people for a long period of time. I was actually surprised to hear how short that is. I still have my email address from college. Like, I'm the exception of the rule, and some of you maybe as well, but there's people out there that are changing emails all the time. So something to think about.
One thing to that, Jason, yes, you can have it in notes. I don't know how much that individual field can take in terms of the characters, but I've had it, when I had my notes from before, it was only like 1 line, 2 lines. It just populated into the main section. So I still have it. If I look it up, I can go to the general field. It just won't be in the bottom notes section. So you can still pull it in.
Yeah, so you can make, when you're creating custom fields, you can make the default option is a text input, and then there's a text area option, which allows you to put like paragraphs in there if you want to. But like he's saying, that wouldn't appear. So if I look at this contact I am sharing, yeah, it wouldn't appear down here per se, but I could make a field in here that was a text area and have a big block of notes in there. So he's correct in that.
Now, my understanding in the notes field, it's not really searchable. So that is a weakness in the CRM for Active Campaign.
Yep.
I do have another question on the deal pipeline. One of the things, and I'm just using it for the first time on a deal, and it looks like I end up with so many different stages where I've got, the interest, and now they've made a soft commitment. Now they've got into the portal. Now I've got they haven't verified their accreditation. They haven't filled out the form. It just seems like I'm building too many stages. Do you find that you can send people from one stage to another pipeline, or how would you do that if you found that there's so many different pieces?
So how many stages do you have currently?
Well, right now I have 5, but then I've jumped to my spreadsheet because there was a bunch of things that I didn't put in stages, such as accreditation verification. Have they filled out the documents? Are they in the portal yet? Those kind of things. It just started getting too many. I mean,
yeah. That's going to be up to kind of your preference. What I would always challenge everybody with is do it in as few stages as possible. I have a client that works out of like 4 pipelines in Active Campaign. He's got 1 million stages in each. And I'm always like, Dave, dude, that's so busy. He's like, it's overwhelming. But I'm like, you created this mess. Can we cut it down at all? So maybe that last piece, maybe when somebody goes from I want to do this to actually doing it, maybe they have to do, these 3 items, the portal login and all this stuff to finish that. So that's going to be some kind of internal process control on your part. But I would definitely challenge you to keep the stages to as few as possible. 5's not bad. I've seen 20 or 30, which is overwhelming because you got to keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and it's much harder to do. So I'm not sure if that's at all.
It's just with the 5, I've got the 5, and then now all of a sudden there's sub items that I need. Yeah. And I don't know if I need to link it to a new pipeline and have the 5 categories in that.
So do you use any tool for like workflow management, like an Asana or something like that?
No, that's why I was using this pipeline for that. That's kind of the first time I've done this.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, maybe this is helpful, maybe it's not, but for my business, we use Asana, and for different things to happen. So for somebody to move from one stage to another, maybe behind the scenes, there's 3 or 4 checklist items we have to do, but that's out of Active Campaign. That's just for workflow and staying organized. The challenge in today's world is there's so many options out there that it's overwhelming, and it's like, am I using the right one or not? And you know, Active Campaign's great for a lot of this stuff. Workflow management, I've never used it to do everything out of, but to keep an eye on people from a high level to these stages, I think it works. So,
Thank you.
But how about the deal thing that you use, Jason? Can we use that to drag people from one place to another?
Yeah, like, what do you mean?
I think you showed earlier, like there were different stages of the deal. That's very close to what Jeff was talking about. Can you show us again, like how you did it?
Yeah. So here's my deal. This is my pipeline for my business, and you can use these deal stages to start and stop different automations. Right. Even the process of taking somebody, which most people don't do, say verbal commitment's your last phase, but clicking them and moving them up to one or moving them to loss, that's the only way to get them out of a deal pipeline, or you can delete the deal, which doesn't really accomplish anything. But using this thing in its entirety is great, because I could have an automation that says, hey, when the deal becomes closed, send out this email next. Here's the typical process for what happens next, that type of thing. But from a high level, this is the stuff that moves through my business. And then, you know, behind the scenes, are there some process and things that happen? Mine's actually pretty simple. I've got 3 automations that power the different stages. When we bring new business on, I've got a client-facing team that knows what to do. And we work out of Asana to manage the individual workflow with each client. But from a high level with sales, this is what we use, and it works fine.
How do you connect Asana to this then? What do you have to manually check across systems?
So that's a good question. I believe Asana does integrate. I don't integrate it because I don't really need to. I just have a different tab open and just pop back and forth. So they don't need to talk to each other for my business. The deal stages, again, I think are best utilized from kind of a 30,000 foot view. I think if you get, and maybe that's what I should have said to begin with, I think if you get too close to the ground with them, instead of having 5 stages, you say, man, there's actually 40 steps that need to happen. Do you need a deal stage for all those? Maybe. I would try to avoid it because it's too much. It's overwhelming. So that's kind of where you get to decide what works best for you, you know?
Yeah, also a problem would be with it being in the stages, there are some checkbox items that may be done in a different order. It doesn't have to be in a specific order. I mean, signing their documents and getting their accreditation verified, somebody may do one first and the other, so the deal flow doesn't exactly work that way.
Well, what you just gave me an idea. So let's say you had three different custom fields in here for each, for every contact they've got it, and say it's, did they do item 1, 2, and 3? And we're using radio buttons, right? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. You could have an automation waiting, and when it sees yes in all 3, then it automatically moves your deal stage. You can build things like that. So you can use automations and kind of your input in here to help move things forward for you.
Now, Jason, you said all 3 of those. Is there something that in Active Campaign, again, this might be too granular, but let's say they did 1 and 3, but not 2. And after a 2-day period, can Active Campaign send a reminder for radio button number 2? Hey, you have not completed your form. Please go through and complete that. They've wired funds and they've done an accredited investor, but they haven't finished the form, but that's step 2. Is that a level of granularity that Active Campaign can get into?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that, Ryan. That's great.
Yeah, because they could wire money and be an accredited investor, but they haven't signed the documents. So that's not helpful either, but that could
exactly
be step 2 versus 1 and 3. So, okay, the order of operation doesn't matter. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, the amount of conditional logic in which we can deploy an Active Campaign is pretty much endless. So sometimes you got to jump into other programs to help get it done, but with what you're talking about, no problem, easy.
Audrey, do you still have a question?
No, Jim, I had a question before and I forgot to raise my hand. So,
and I think that Andrew had a question in the chat.
Yep. So what's the easiest way to add contacts to Active Campaign? So if you had a list, what you could do is you could pop into, a main list. If I wanted to add people to this list of mine, for example, you come over to import contacts, and then it's going to ask you to have a CSV file ready. Again, you can just create that from Google Sheets or Excel, and then it's going to import, you'll import the whole thing in bulk. It'll have you match up fields, with the spreadsheet and Active Campaign. And that's the easiest way to do it in bulk. You always have the option to add onesies and twosies, come here to this contact menu. It just needs the most basic field you need to complete is email. But if you have this info, you can add it, you can assign them to lists and that type of thing. So you can do it either way. Where did my chat go? It vanished. I don't know where the chat went.
That was the last question in the chat.
Okay. It's weird. I had a little box up on the screen and it, oh yeah, you're right. It's gone. Yep. Somebody's asking me about link to Calendly. Yeah, I can share that after this. No problem. Looks like Dan has Convert Kit. Yep. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions after this. I have no problem.
I do have one big question, which is, could you just talk a little bit about working with you, what that looks like, what your business model is, and if we could get your contact information, and also if you'd be if there's any affiliate programs for the GOB network with you, or any discounts that you'd have to offer the entire network.
Okay. So working with me, I generally start with new clients on a project, finite scope of work, approximate timeline, and it's easy that way because then we both figure out, are we a good fit together? And a lot of people just need that foundation, right? So with real estate investors, I have a couple standard options, which I can share after the call. And I've got a team there's 3 of us. They're all US based. I train the other 2 ladies, myself, and then we've got 4 other people that help us with our own marketing content as well. Like I said, I'm out of the Indianapolis area. Working with me, I mean, you see, I'm a pretty straight shooter. The thing about working with us that you'll never anticipate until you experience it is the amount of information and learning that you'll do is going to be awesome. So you're going to have questions during, after, maybe even before we get rolling, and I'll respond to your questions just like this, right? Screen share video. Because if I just email you, you might be like, I don't know what that means, but if I actually show you and narrate as I show you on your screen, not only can you watch it, your team can watch it and you can watch it again. So it's repurposable and very powerful. I don't offer any discounts or anything, to be honest with you, just because the demand for what we do is so high. I just don't really need to, just full transparency. Demand has been absolutely insane this year, and I don't see it stopping. But I feel like for what we do and what you get, it's very, very fairly priced for sure. There was another question or two in there.
Best way to connect with you?
Yeah. So let's do it right here. If you go to my website, intentionallyinspirational.com, click schedule a call. There you go. Yep. There's a couple places on the site that all lead you to the same spot. It's almost like I'm taking you down a funnel or something. Yep.
Well, we're at the top of the hour. So I, for one, thank you very much, Ahmad, for inviting Jason on. Jason, absolutely fantastic information. Would love to have you back sometime to dig even deeper.
Sure.
Particularly if we have some more people from the GOB network start to work with you and get some even more down the rabbit hole.
Absolutely. I appreciate the time and attention and the opportunity, guys. I don't take stuff like this lightly. I love what I do. I love opening the minds of entrepreneurs, and hopefully you all make more money because of it.
Yeah, I know we have more people that unfortunately weren't able to make it just because of the timing. So they'll be watching the replay, and we'll put your contact information in our Slack channel as well. So
awesome.
Really appreciate you coming out. It was great. I'm sure everyone got, a ton out of it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Missy,
Jason.
back to you.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's the end of the call. If there's any other challenges as you guys are experiencing, let's, bring up to everyone's attention so we can all find a a resource that can benefit everyone. So that's the part of the group. So
Missy, I don't know much about your group. How often do you guys meet?
we meet every Wednesday, this time from a capital raising standpoint, and this is part of the GOB network. So Jim still is the founder of the network, and we are the first commercial real estate commercial wiki. So we try to make sure we educate the people who are just starting syndication with the commercial real estate space. We're helping each other out, collaborate instead of compete. I know that's a long sentence, but so yeah, we have one part of it would be the capital raising, and that's where we get together and share our learnings. It's on Wednesday. Sometimes we have a little bit more activities. Sometimes we're just sharing our knowledge. So same time on Wednesday every week.
Is this
Thank
on the
you.
GOB calendar?
Yes,
It
it is.
Okay.
And if anyone knows anyone else like Jason that would be helpful to bring on, please step forward and recommend them so that we can reach out. Or if, like Hamad, you have a personal connection, just want to ask them, we would love to have them come on. For any, whether it's for this meeting for capital raising, or whether it's for the underwriting meeting, or for the mastermind meeting, any of those meetings, if you have somebody that you'd like to see or hear from, I'm sure that the entire group would love that.
Yep, that's great. Yeah, I think that's it. If there's nothing else, thank you again, Jason. Thank you everyone for attending. I'm gonna close the recording.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.